This conference will now be recorded.
Great, so welcome everybody to this meeting of the Montachusett Metropolitan Planning Organization. I think our first item on the agenda is introductions. So do you want to call the roll, Brad, and see which members are present?
Sure, and if I miss anybody, I apologize, just let me know. First, we have Derek Cravatt from MassDOT representing Secretary Tesler.
Yep, Derek Cravatt here representing our, we actually have a new secretary, Secretary and CEO Gina Fiandaca here.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Ann Sullivan, MassDOT Highway.
Hello, Ann Sullivan, representing MassDOT Highway Administrator Jonathan Gulliver.
City of Fitchburg, Liz Murphy.
Hi, Liz Murphy. Nice to be here.
City of Gardner, Trevor Beauregard.
Yep.
Leominster, Mark Pomerini.
Here. Hello, everyone.
I don't see Guy Corbacero yet, but he has registered, but no one yet. From Mark, George Cahaley.
Yes, here, representing the administrator, Bruno Fischer.
Okay. Rep from Subregion 1 is not here yet. So now we have from Subregion 2, Rosemary Meisner.
Yes, here.
Okay. And from Subregion 3, Tim Kilhart.
Here.
And those are the signatories.
Great, sounds good. Thank you, Brad. Next item on the agenda is public comments. Are there any members of the public present that would like to make a comment at this time? All right, seeing none. If you do have a comment at any point, feel free to put something in the chat box and we'll be sure to call on you. The next item is the approval of the December 21st, 2022 meeting minutes. So I'll ask for a motion and second to endorse the minutes.
I make the motion to accept it.
Great. Thanks, George. Is there a second?
Ann Sullivan, second.
Great. Thank you. So motion having been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions on the minutes? All right. Seeing none. Call the roll, Brad.
Derek Cravatt.
Yes.
Ann Sullivan.
Yes.
Liz Murphy.
Sorry,
Is he
yes.
unmuted? Okay. Trevor Beauregard.
Yes.
Mark Pomerini.
Yes.
George Cahaley.
Yes.
Rosemary Meisner.
Abstain.
And Tim Kilhart.
Yes.
Okay, so it passes with one abstention.
Great. Perfect. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the statewide long-range transportation plan. I can give a quick update, although nothing too major right now. As most folks know, we're in the process of updating our statewide long-range transportation plan. We're calling it Beyond Mobility. I'm going to put the link for our plan website in the chat. If folks are interested in signing up for plan updates, there's a button on the website for you to do that. We should be having some information to share, I'd say, over the next month or two. We just finished up some extensive public engagement where we got over 2,500 survey responses on a public survey we distributed asking for folks' priorities on a variety of different funding areas and transportation. So we'll be making results from that public, as well as some draft vision statements that we'll be developing over the next few weeks. So definitely we'll have some more concrete updates, especially if you sign up for our kind of mailing list, and then you'll be notified of any updates. But for now, I'll just leave it at that, but happy to take any questions if there are any.
Derek, I'd just like to chime in.
Sure.
Sherry Bean sent me a flyer for something for a upcoming meeting and event that's being combined with the state's R2P meeting in a box presentation. Sherry, if you'd like to talk a little bit about it, and I don't know, Brian, if you have a copy of the flyer, if you could throw it up on the screen.
Yeah, we just finalized the flyer literally minutes ago, so hopefully there's no errors, but it's still kind of a draft, but I think it's good to go. The meeting is going to be on February 16th at 10 a.m. And I know Chris Clem from MassDOT will be presenting the meeting in a box presentation for the first like 45 minutes of the meeting, and hope to engage anybody in attendance. And we have partnered with China 9, our local community health network area, and they are hoping to push the flyer out to all of their members and their organizations that they work with. So that would be a really good opportunity for us as well to try to get some feedback for our own regional transportation plan. And then at the end of the meeting, there will be some discussion on whether or not we want to pursue a TMA for the Montachusett area, which could potentially get some other different types of transportation options in the area. So we'll be emailing that flyer out to everybody on our contact list so that the MPO members will definitely get it, hopefully later this week or early next week, I'm thinking, just to make sure that everything's good with the flyer.
Great.
Brian, did you have the flyer?
I do not have the flyer. No.
Okay, if you give me the screen for a minute, I can throw it up there.
Could I ask a quick question? This is Renee Eldridge from Haywood Hospital. I also represent China 9, among other organizations. Derek, could you just share how many surveys you received back? I missed that.
Sure. Yeah, it was just over 2,500
Great. Okay.
responses. Yep, to our
Thank you.
statewide survey. Yep, you're welcome.
Okay, let's see. I want to do this. Okay, this is the flyer. Hopefully you can see this now.
It's kind of hard to see. I don't know if you can make it bigger. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, there's a lot of information on here, so it's just, how's that for now? Basically, it announces the Transportation Open Forum, February 16th at 10 o'clock. As Sherry mentioned, there'll be an online Zoom meeting. And it's being co-hosted or co-presented with the state RTP. Here you see the agenda for starting at 10 o'clock. And there is a QR code here for people if they want to take a quick screenshot right now of it. But we'll also be posting this on our website, on the MRPC website, and we will be sending out flyers to everybody announcing it so that you'll have a chance to sign up and place it in your calendar for everybody to attend.
Yeah, I'm not sure that the link is live yet for registering, but it should be very soon. I think it was just all sent around this morning just to make sure everyone's on board and it looked good. So I think we just got to confirm that it's a go, and it'll be live very soon.
Okay.
I just pulled it up and it opened to the registration page.
Oh, good. Great. Thank you for trying.
Yep.
And again, if for some reason you have trouble, just give us a call or send an email to Sherry at sbean@mrpc.org, and we can get you in touch with everything.
Great. Sounds good. Thank you, Brad and Sherry.
Yep.
So I think with that, we can. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Ryan,
Brad.
you should have control again. Okay.
Great. So yeah, we can move to the next agenda item, which is the Montachusett Federal Fiscal Year 2023 to 2027 Transportation Improvement Program. So I know we have an amendment to endorse, so our vote for endorsement on. So I'll turn it over to Brad or Brian to talk through the amendment?
This will be George Snow.
Oh, George. Sorry about that. Go ahead, George.
George, you're muted or... Are you there?
Yeah,
Oh, there.
yeah, sorry about
There you
that.
go.
FFY 2023 TIP Amendment Number 3 was presented to the MPO at the 12/21/22 MPO meeting. The amendment is for project number 608784, which is a roundabout project at the Patriots Road, North Main Street, Garden Road intersection in Templeton. The project has seen a cost increase of just over $2 million from just over $2.8 million for an increase of approximately $800,000. Because this represents an increase of more than $500,000 for a program project under $5 million, an amendment to the FFY 2023 highway element of the current TIP is required. This project is also a target project on the Section 1A regionally prioritized projects. The currently endorsed TIP is fiscally constrained for FFY 2023. Also, the total cost of all the target projects for FFY 2023 are approximately $2.2 million under our total federal aid target, which means there is room to increase the cost of this project while still remaining fiscally constrained for FFY 2023. A motion was passed at the 12/21/22 MPO meeting to release the amendment for a 21-day public review and comment period that commenced on Tuesday, 12/28/22 and closed at the end of business on Tuesday, 1/17/23. At the 1/11/23 MJTC meeting, the MJTC passed a recommendation to the MPO that the amendment receive MPO endorsement. No other comments have been received as of yesterday. Today, the action we are seeking is a vote from the MPO to endorse the amendment.
Great. Thank you, George. So before I open up to questions, I'll just first ask for a motion and second to endorse the amendment as presented.
I make the motion to accept the draft amendment number 3 as presented.
Thanks, George. Is there a second?
Ann Sullivan, second.
Thank you. So motion now having been made and seconded, any comments or questions on the amendment? All right, seeing none, go ahead and call the roll, Brad.
Okay. MassDOT CEO Derek Cravat.
Yes.
MassDOT Highway Ann Sullivan.
Yes.
City of Fitchburg Liz Murphy.
I'm going to abstain because I just got interrupted and I didn't hear the whole presentation.
Okay. City of Gardner Trevor Beauregard.
Yes.
City of Leominster Mark Pamrini.
Yes.
Mart George Cahaley.
Yes.
Subregion 2 Rosemary Meisner.
Yes.
And Subregion 3 Tim Kilhart.
Yes.
So it's unanimous with one abstention.
Great, sounds good. Thank you, everybody. So I think the next item on the agenda is the performance measure Area 1 safety performance measures for calendar year 2023. So I know I'll be presenting on the state targets, which I think we'll go over first, and then George, I can turn it over to you for the regional targets. Does that work?
Sure, that works.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. So, yeah, I don't know if you're able to zoom in at all, but it might be helpful. Or do you want me to share my screen? I can go ahead and share.
I just made you a presenter, Derek. I could share my screen as well. I have the presentation up if that's easier for you.
I have it open. I can just go ahead. Can folks see this okay?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. All right. Yep. So we're just gonna scroll through this Word document here. But folks may be familiar, so we presented performance measures to the MPO in the past, but every year MassDOT and the MPOs are required per federal regulation to adopt performance measures in the area of safety. So we look at 5 categories in the area of total number of fatalities, total rate of fatalities, number of serious injuries, and the rate of serious injuries, and then a combined indicator for non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. So on the state side, we put together data looking at historical data in these areas and then project potential future trends to set these targets. This Word document that I'm sharing here just describes the sort of process for setting these targets. I'll scroll down to the actual chart, which might be more useful to look at as we sort of talk through it. But you can see that the sort of gray bars here represent what we actually have data for, and then the blue bar is the target that we've projected out based on past data, and then a trend line for future expectations. So this is showing total fatalities, and this is again statewide. This is all fatalities statewide on roadways, and you can see that we have started to go in the wrong direction, beginning with the 2017 to 2021 5-year averages. There's been increases in fatalities nationally, as well as here in Massachusetts. There's a lot of research out there looking at why, potentially due to higher speeding as a result of less vehicles on the road during the pandemic and things like that. But of course, going in the wrong direction there. But to set our target, that process is to not set a target that's higher than what we have already, right? We, of course, are a Vision Zero state. MassDOT is committed to bringing fatalities down to 0 long term. For the purposes of this exercise, which is a federal requirement in performance management, and following federal guidance, we use a trendline approach to look at just decreasing overall in the sort of near term for the upcoming calendar year. So we essentially decreased the amount from the 2017 to 2021 by about 3%, just to land on that 355 number. And then similarly for the rate, we just kind of essentially what we did the math, I think that just stayed the same at 0.59. So that's the sort of target, or I guess projection that was set for this area. The same underlying logic was used for the total serious injuries category, which is looking at serious injuries on roadways. This one is actually going in the right direction if we look at 5-year averages, seeing things decrease steadily, and then just the 2023 target again, just about a 3% decrease over the last year of recent data, and same with the rate there. The 4.25, that represents serious injury per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, and showing decreases there. And the final measure is total combined non-motorized injuries and fatalities. So the regulations sort of dictate what measures get reported. This last one is both serious injuries and fatalities for all non-motorized modes. So that includes bicyclists, pedestrians, any other kind of non-motorized device or mode of transportation. And so we are setting, of course, a lower target here as well, aiming to reduce that by about 30 injuries and fatalities there. So again, a similar that process, just using that 3% as sort of an agreed upon decrease across the board for all of these targets. So that's the state data. I guess before turning it over to George, I will open it up to questions, see if there's any questions on the process for setting these at the state level, and George will show regional data. next. But any questions for now on these? Okay, seeing none, I'll stop sharing then, and I'll turn it over to George to toxic region specific safety data.
Thank you, Derek. Okay, so when I created these charts, I just didn't include the Montachusett region numbers. I also included the statewide numbers, so we can do a little bit of a comparison. Also, we create these charts every year for our UPWP and our TIP documents. So we start out with total fatalities per 5-year rolling average, and you can see at the bottom you have the blue bars. That's our region. We average about 15 fatalities for each 5-year period. But also you can see that bump in 17 to 2021 that Derek mentioned about how there's been an increase. But still, we maintain this level pretty much consistently. It's been 15 crashes for each 5-year period ever since the first. The first year was only 14, but the average it's only one below the average. So there's been very little change, and you can see that in the trend line for the fatality rate. It's been very steady for our region. It hasn't dropped. The drop has been insignificant. But also we average 13% higher for each of the 10 years represented here, 10 5-year periods represented here. We average 13% higher in our fatality rate. So hopefully we can address this issue in our region. Next. Now we go on to total serious injuries. At the bottom again is the blue bars of our region. And as you can see, there's been a steady decrease in the number of serious injuries in our region. And that's good. It reflects the statewide trend. And that's also reflected in the trend line for our region. It pretty much coincides with the statewide trend in decrease. And we hope that will continue to take place. Next. Finally, we get to the combined serious injury and fatalities for non-motorized modes. And again, our numbers at the bottom. We pretty much follow the same pattern as a statewide, but a little bit of a variation here. For the first 4 years, we pretty much matched the upward trend of the state. But then in 2012 through 2016, the state went up just a little bit, but ours started to go down, and it's been going down ever since then. And that also mirrors what's happening in the state for the non-motorized modes. So that's pretty much the data for our region. And so I'll take any questions if anybody has any.
Great. Thank you, George. Any questions for George or myself? So as part of this requirement, the MPO is required to endorse either the state's targets that I had presented or to establish their own. In the past, I think for the past 3 or 4 years since we've been doing this, the MPO has voted to endorse MassDOT state targets, as I think every other MPO. But I don't know, George or Brad, if you want to speak to that process or a staff recommendation on that before we get into whether folks are comfortable with taking a vote today.
Sure. In the last few calendar years, the MPO has voted to adopt statewide targets and to try and meet those. It's just an easier solution for us. I think the state targets are acceptable and a good goal for us. So we have decided to try and maintain that. And I think this year's recommendation would also be to adopt the statewide targets for safety for the region. And as Derek said, the other MPOs have also decided, or most of them usually decide to follow the statewide targets also.
Thanks, Brad. So with that, I think I'll ask then for potentially a motion and second to endorse the state targets, and then we could open it up to any questions or comments that folks might have.
I will make a motion to accept the state presentation and performance measure as presented.
Thank you, George.
I'll second. Ann Sullivan.
Okay. Thank you, Ann. So with the motion being made and seconded, do folks have questions, comments, or feedback about the process? Targets? Okay. All right. Seeing none, I think you can call the roll then, Brad.
Okay. MassDOT CEO Derek Cravatt.
Yes.
MassDOT Highway Ann Sullivan.
Yes.
City of Fitchburg Liz Murphy.
Yes.
City of Gardner Trevor Beauregard.
Yes.
Mart George Cahaley.
Yes.
Sorry, I skipped over Leominster. City of Leominster Mark Pamrini.
Yes.
Subregion 2 Rosemary Meisner.
Yes.
And Subregion 3 Tim Kilhart.
Yes.
So it's unanimous.
Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Next on the agenda is the fiscal year 2024 to 28 Montachusett Transportation Improvement Program and fiscal year 2024 Unified Planning Work Program to go over. So first is the tip. So I'll hand it over to, I think, Brian to talk through the tip, and then Sherry to take the UPWP.
Yep, I could talk about the tip. So it's that time of year again, and we'll be updating our transportation improvement program. And I know many of the people at the meeting are very familiar with the process and what the program is. But just as a refresher, it's a list of all federal aid funded transportation and transit projects in the region. And the majority of our discussions are on what's called the target section. And this is where the MPO has discretion on project placement. So I'll be looking at the projects on our list of projects that are eligible for this target section and the tip in general in the coming months. And we'll be trying to figure out a way to list these projects in the next 5 federal fiscal years. This update covers federal fiscal year 2024 through 2028. So there is a letter to interested parties detailing some of the process over the next few months. There's also a draft development schedule. This is basically the same schedule that we followed the last few years. We anticipated endorsement date at the May MPO meeting, and we're right at the beginning stages right now. Staff is compiling lists of target projects. We're trying to get some updates on the status of those designs and the costs as well. And we'll be meeting with Mass DOT and various project proponents in the next couple of weeks. And we'll have some updated project information for the MPO at the February meeting next month. So that's what's going on right now. We'll be looking at getting some information on some of the new projects that have come on board in the last year, and we'll add those to the list as well. We'll also be looking at our transportation evaluation criteria, which is what we use to rank these projects. We'll be updating the statuses on each one and ranking and scoring the new projects, and we'll provide that information at next month's meeting as well. We'll go over that in more detail next month. We're also awaiting our target allotment funding from DOT and Federal Highway, and we'll know that within the next few weeks when we meet with them at the end of the month. Basically, it's a fiscally constrained document. We have a good idea of what our target funding will be, but we'll know for sure before the February meeting. So that's some more information we'll have for you next month. From there, we'll go over some different funding scenarios when we get into March, and we'll detail that with the MPO and the GTC at its meeting. And, you know, we take into consideration project readiness and cost, and we'll go over a number of different scenarios. And the idea is to not divert from the list that we carry from the 2023 through 27 program. Is we try to stay on that same list as much as possible. But however, there's always changes. Sometimes we've seen recent years some dramatic cost increase that will not allow us to stay fiscally constrained, so we'll have to move things around. And of course, there's also different design things that come up that may put a project off of a given year. So we'll go over those scenarios in March, and hopefully at that meeting we'll come to consensus on what direction to create the draft tip list in the draft document. And that's something we'll present in April to the JTC and the MPO. So at that April MPO meeting, we'll look to for MPO action to release the draft 24 through 28 tip for a 21-day public comment period. Tentatively, we have that scheduled right now for April 24th through May 15th, which will give the MJTC an opportunity to make an official comment at their May meeting. And we'll come back in May to the MPO on the 17th and review all the comments that were received during the period. And we'll hopefully have an endorsed tip at that meeting as well. So that's the tentative schedule for now. I'd also like to mention in past years, we've opened the opportunity up for communities to present information on their projects, whether it be a new project or a project that has been around for a few years. If you'd like to make a brief 10-minute presentation to the MPO, typically we've done that in February or March MPO meetings. Of course, we'd be open to such a presentation at any MPO throughout the year. But you know, it's more relevant information now to people who are making some of the decisions, especially when we get into March on the funding scenarios. So if you'd like to do that, please reach out to us and we can set something up as well. So that's all I have for the 24 through 28 tip today, and we'll have much more information at next month's meeting.
Great. Thanks, Brian. Any questions for Brian on the tip? All right. Seeing none, I'll turn it over to Sherry. Oh, I do see a question. I see a hand raised. Go ahead. I think you can unmute.
So yeah, quick question on the projects to be presented. Brian, at what point would you prefer these projects be at in order to be presented?
So we have had projects that have been brand new to the target list that have been presented. We've had projects that have been around for a number of years. We've had a few projects that have been presented a few times because some of the design has changed. So it's really up to the community. We don't have a preference. Certainly it'd be beneficial for a new project to familiarize the MPO with the project, assuming that it will be on the funding list in the future at some point.
Yeah. So the closer to 25%, the better, probably, I would imagine, right?
You know, you typically we wouldn't list a project unless it was 25%, and at that point, I think it would be beneficial for MPO members to have a sort of an understanding of what the project is. If you think the project is approaching that level and it's going to start being involved in some of the conversations, then it certainly would be useful. But we haven't limited it to any particular design phase or anything like that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Any other questions? Right. Seeing none, I'll turn it over to Sherry to talk about the UPWP.
All right. So the UPWP the process is very similar to what Brian was stating in this tip. So you can see our schedule is on the screen. We're going through the required tasks right now, and then we're going to be soliciting new tasks from our communities. Probably we'll be sending out a memo in the next couple weeks by the end of the month. And we're looking for some potential projects potentially, we'd really like to focus on some more regional projects in our area for next year's UPWP. So if anybody or any community has any projects that they think would be a good fit that we could focus on, that would be definitely something you could reach out to us at any time. You don't have to wait for the memo. But the memo is just kind of an opportunity or a reminder that we're going to be doing this process and to give a deadline so that we can start moving forward with our draft. So we're hoping that we can present some of the potential projects, in February, and then come up with a review with. Thank you for scrolling down. You can review the document by the spring along with the tip. So it just definitely mirrors the tip process. So it'll go hand in hand. At every MPO meeting, we'll probably give a little bit of an update or presentation on each document. So you can look forward to that. And then, we'll have the endorsement sometime in May.
Great. Sounds good. Thanks, Sherry. Any questions for Sherry?
Derek, I have a question, but it's more towards the state and federal highway. Typically, we get some feedback from the state and federal highway and federal transit about suggestions for the UPWP. Do you know when that would be coming towards us so that we can help work it into the process?
Do you mean sort of ahead of UPWP development?
Yeah, usually, we get some
Yeah.
suggestions on what we should be looking at.
Yes, yeah. So as part of our annual MassDOT MARPA meeting, which is next Friday, the 27th, we'll be providing our guidance, both financial guidance and narrative guidance on new things to look at. Very similar, I'd say, to last year's guidance, where we did make a few updates as a result of the new infrastructure bill, but a few minor additions this year, and the potential changes to financials as well. So I'm hoping to send that out to everybody probably on Monday, so folks have it ahead of time. So you should be receiving that shortly.
Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
And can you hear me? Okay.
Oh, yeah,
yes.
Go ahead, Chris.
Sorry, this is Chris, Federal Highway. We're on the same timeline too. Our guidance, which we're going to be connecting with Derek and OTP on Monday, will follow the same kind of template as last year, and I think the same schedule too, with the goal of sending it out hopefully by close of business Monday.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Chris. All right, so the next item on the agenda is Montachusett Title VI assurances and the limited English proficiency plan. I'll turn it over to Brad and Sherry for this one.
Yes, thank you. I'll be starting off on the limited English proficiency plan. Staff at MRPC recently conducted some work on the annual Title VI report for submittal to MassDOT. And as part of that work, we undertook an update to our limited English proficiency plan, or LEP. The last LEP was conducted in 2019 and utilized the 2015 American Community Survey 5-year census estimates. So as the plan states, the Montachusett MPO is committed to assisting individuals for whom English is not their primary language, understand and have access to MPO programs, activities, or services. Languages for many LEP individuals can be a barrier to accessing information on important benefits or services, understanding and exercising important risks and rights, complying with applicable responsibilities, or understanding other information provided by federally funded programs and activities. So as part of this, we took the last LEP and again updated it with new data. So we used as I said, in 2019, we used the 2015 ACS data, and that showed that the region had approximately 4.6% of the total region population over the age of 5 spoke English less than very well. So again, in 2019, that is about 10,300 people out of 227,000 individuals. And then from that ACS data, 3 languages, Spanish, or Spanish Creole, French, and Portuguese had limited English proficiency populations greater than the regional average. So the regional average at that time was 4.6%, and the three languages that I mentioned had percentages over that. Spanish was about 59% of the total limited English population, French at 7.1%, Portuguese at 6.5%. So when we updated the figures for the region, we used the newest ACS estimates, which were from 2021. They were 2021 5-year estimates. And what we found out is that the language categories in that data census data had changed and been redefined by the Census Bureau. Spanish or Spanish Creole was now just Spanish. French now includes Haitian or Cajun. And there was no separate breakdown for Portuguese. Instead, they had a category of other Indo-European languages, which includes Portuguese with other languages of Europe like Italian, Dutch, Flemish, etc. So as such, the breakdown has changed in what we looked at. So the regional average of the population that speaks English less than very well came in at 5.02%. That's a slight increase from the 2019 one of 4.6%. So the language categories, and this table that's up here now shows that information. If you can move it up just a little, you'll see the total population for the region. Yeah, the total population for the region it came out at 236,000, and the percentage of the population that spoke English less than very well, and that's ages 5 years and over, was 11,840 approximately. So there was the 5.02% of the population was categorized as speaking English less than very well. And you can also see on this chart the communities that had a percentage of that population over the average. There was Clinton, Fitchburg, Harvard, and Leominster. And I'll talk about that in a second. So again, because of the different breakdowns in the categories, we found only two language categories, Spanish and French, Haitian, or Creole, exceeded our regional average. Spanish was at 62.21% and French at 5.58%. Remember that 62% is of that 11,800 that speak English less than very well. All the other, there were two other categories you can see kind of listed here, did also exceed it, but they included other Indo-European languages and all other languages. So there was multiple languages combined in those categories. We're not able to simply say, as we had in 2019, the 2019 update, Portuguese, we didn't have that breakdown, but typically they're probably included in the other Indo-European languages, but we didn't have a breakout specifically for that. And as I mentioned, for individual communities in the region, 4 had LEP populations greater than the average: Clinton, Fitchburg, Leominster, and Harvard. Harvard has replaced Shirley. In the 2019 LEP, Shirley came out as one of the higher communities with an LEP population. Why that has changed, I'm not sure. It might have been the way they split up the population figures. Previously, Shirley had their census tracts included what would be the prison facilities in the town. That when you looked at the data on the block group and census tract basis, you could see there was a difference in the numbers. And the same was true this time around for Harvard. The Harvard population, when you looked at the census tract, there was a concentration of a higher percentage of LEP people in one of the census tracts that includes the Devens Medical Facility and the Devens Prison Camp. So that brought their LEP population up higher above the regional average. So there is, you can look at this a little bit more in depth and see why some of these things occurred. So anyway, with this data, we went through the next steps of the LEP, which is usually the US DOT 4-factor LEP analysis, and that's broken down in the report. It includes, again, first the demographic data, then it's scrolling through. It's the demographic data, then it's how we address those. Yep, going a little bit too far. Back up. A little bit more. Okay, these are the 4 factors. The first was looking at the demographics. Number 2 was the frequency in which LEP individuals come into contact with the MPO program. We have not had any direct requests for translation services over the past few years. There has been no outreach on that. We do make some of our documents available in Spanish right now through translation services with some staff at MART. And we also have updated our website to include Google Translate so that individuals can translate the website as they see fit. Step 3 was the nature and importance of the program, activity, or services provided by the MPO to the LEP population. And as we state, we're responsible for the development of the TIP and the Unified Work Program, and working with individuals on regional transportation issues and the transportation plan. So that's what we tried to address here in this brief statement. And number 4, if you could scroll up a bit, Brian, was the resources available. We have available through our contract and through Mass DOT the ability to get things translated if needed. We also try to make accommodations to individuals if we get requests. And as I said before, we haven't had any direct requests for translation services at a meeting or so forth. The MRPC in the past has conducted some specific outreach based on the study that was being conducted, where they did provide translation services at those meetings, and we're able to do that again if we get those requests. So, and then we've also, from there, we go into the implementation of the plan, which has the identification. Most importantly, it's we talk about the possibility for and the rights of individuals to attend, get information, and also to complain and provide feedback. In the past, what we had done was to put up notices of rights and responsibilities and procedures for 4 languages that were identified as being above our average in our region. That was, again, Spanish, French, Portuguese, as well as English, obviously. Theoretically, with this go round, we were down to Spanish and French as the languages that are most prevalent in the region. But we've decided to keep up the posters and the translation services notices in Portuguese. Again, and this was due to the limitations of the data from the Census Bureau. It was decided that let's not drop Portuguese. Let's keep those notices up there and make it available in case people are still in that category within our region. So we are maintaining the notices and the rights to beneficiaries in those 4 languages: English, Spanish, French, and Portuguese on our website and on our offices. Excuse me. So this, again, the rest of this plan outlines staff training that we're available, and we try to make the staff aware of what we have to do and what's out there and what they can do to provide assistance to individuals and requests that we receive. And I think that's pretty much a rundown of what this LEP plan does. We've outlined, again, it's outlining the staff training, what we should be doing, and how to take complaints, how to take requests, how to move them forward, and so forth. I'm just seeing a couple of questions in the chat. Let me just check those. First question I have is asked where the numbers were collected for languages within each city or town. We used again, the 2021 American Community Survey 5-year estimates. There were breakdowns for each community. We didn't table them that way. We simply looked at them as limited English proficiency or speaking English less than very well categories. We do have those numbers for breakdowns with each community if you're interested. And as I said, some of those numbers are available in the first table that showed what percentage lived in each community. And that's how we identified Fitchburg, Clinton, Fitchburg, Harvard, and Leominster as having higher LEP populations than the regional average. As of right now, and the second question are the schedules for locations and times in other languages. Are they able to translate in the moment? I'm sure you're talking about the as we go translations. Right now, we don't have as we go translations. It's mainly because we haven't had a request to do that. If we did have a receiver request, we'd have to talk with what resources that are available. Mass DOT has been a valuable resource too, in providing us with some guidance and also with possible translation services. So when we get a request, or if we get a request like that, we'll have to judge and see what we can do and what we can accommodate. We'll make every effort to try and accommodate as best as possible, but again, it'll depend on a case-by-case basis.
Excuse me, could I just ask Brad just to piggyback on that question?
Sure.
So how would any non-English speaking individual know that they have the opportunity to ask for translation services?
It's on we have these notices up in our conference rooms and in the office on the general public areas. We also have information listed on our website on the public policies in there. So hopefully, if they go to our website, they can use the Google Translate thing to translate the entire website into a language, and they could find some information there. When we send out notices for meetings and agendas, we include some information on the bottom about translation services. We ask that people get in touch with us, ahead of the meeting so that we can, put things in place. So it is part of our regular notices for the meetings as we move forward, as we have in the past, and we continue to do that moving forward.
So can I just further that? Can I ask in regards to it was mentioned, I think Sherry Bean had asked about what other projects regionally would be of interest. Do I have the right person? Is that who we would reach out to,
Yes.
Sherry Bean? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I just feel that while you do have that information posted, I feel that in working as a community health worker and a care coordinator in the school systems, I feel that that still is a huge barrier to those non-English speaking individuals to be able to access the information where you have it posted versus being right on your actual mode of transportation that you're using, whether it's the vans or the vehicles themselves, just to be able to have something in a variety of languages accessible to them, and then be able to translate that schedule of times. That's huge. I ask about the communities and the languages just because Haywood works with other local area organizations to do a community assessment, and we actually did one for not that long ago, and I believe Hmong and Arabic are among some higher populations in Gardner, and I know that we didn't really touch on those, but I appreciate that this was done over a couple of years ago and whatnot. So I'll look to. Again, I work with China 9, so I'll look to connect with them around getting some of that information to your organization to help with that.
Okay. I will say that MART, the Montachusett Regional Transit Authority, has been making updates and changes to their schedules and has been looking to make them available in Spanish and other languages. And I think they've put some training videos together and some training material together on reading the bus schedules and understanding that in different languages. So I think
Great.
maybe we could make a better effort of, getting that information out to, people who need it, and also making that link better with our website to the transit authority and the information they have together.
That'd be great. I know a lot of the schools have parent liaisons working with the ESL population. That's just a suggestion to share out.
We would certainly encourage anybody, if you have any contact information for groups like that, send it to us so that we can add it to our mailings and make sure people have the ability to understand what we're doing and how they can participate. So
thank you.
Please feel free to send us any information like that. So back on LEP, the bottom line on this is what we're doing is looking to release this draft report for a 20-day public review and comment period. That'll run from approximately Tuesday, January 24th to Monday, February 13th, and then bring it back forward to the MPO with any comments we receive and our responses to them, and ask for endorsement at the next meeting in February. So that's the LEP information at this time.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Sure, go ahead, George.
Can you put, please, Brad, the table?
Which table, George? This one? Or by community?
No, this one.
Okay.
I have a question on this 62%. What is that?
That is of, if you look a little bit lower on the bottom line, the regional population is 236,000. Of that population, 11,848 speak English less than very well. That's the entire group of people that speak English less than very well. On the Spanish side, we have 7,300 individuals that speak English less than very well. That's 62. So that is 62% of that total 11,848.
Oh, not
not the regional total, no, but just the total of the individuals who are classified as speaking English less than very well.
Maybe it should be clarified.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, thanks, George. Any other questions on the LEP plan? Okay, so I think as far as kind of releasing this, if suggestions like that one, George, I think staff can always address during the comment period, and then when we take it up for endorsement next month, can present on any changes that have been made. But I think for the purposes of just putting it out for public comment, I'll ask for a motion and second to release this LEP plan for public comment, and then we can open it back up if there are any other questions. But for now, ask for that motion.
A motion to release.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Ann Sullivan, I'll second.
All right, perfect. Thank you. So now motion having been made and seconded. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none then, call the roll, Brad.
Okay. Mass.CEO, Derek Cravat.
Yes.
Mass.Highway, Ann Sullivan.
Yes.
Fitchburg, Liz Murphy.
Yes.
Gardner, Trevor Beauregard.
Yes.
Leominster, Mark Pemerini.
Yes.
Mart, George Cahaley.
Yes.
Subregion 2, Rosemary Meisner.
Yes.
And Subregion 3, Tim Keelhart.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We will release that. And then the next part of this presentation is just on what's called assurances. And I'm going to throw it to Sherry for this part of this presentation.
Sure. Not sure, Brian, do you have any copies of the assurances? No?
Yeah, it's up on the site. It should be.
Sorry, I zoomed in to see the table. Now it's too zoomed in. Okay. So this is the new updated non-discrimination assurances that was sent over from MassDOT, but the FTA and FHWA require this to be signed by the Title VI coordinator, who happens to be our executive director, Glenn Eaton. So we had put this before Glenn. He had signed it. There's a couple signature pages, and we just need to send that back over to MassDOT so we can have that be part of our Title VI update, which every year we're supposed to update our Title VI with a report, or sometimes they do briefer updates. The state usually sends off what they are hoping for us to do for each year. It does change, I think it's usually every 3 years we do a much more further in-depth update. And I think since COVID, we haven't done real updates as much as we had in the past, but we tried to actually incorporate the guidance that we had gotten for our Title VI update this year as an actual full-fledged update. We just it was a table, and it was all the requirements from FHWA and FTA to make sure that we meet our Title VI standards. And we basically took the table and created a report out of it, and we answered all the questions that were asked, or at least clarified how we follow the guidance that were given. And that report is, I would say, it's completed. We actually updated some of the documentation that MassDOT had sent along, and we put those up, as we were saying earlier. Same as the LEP, as the Limited English Proficiency Plan, we had put up that information along the conference room walls, and updated some of our website information. And I know we are in the process of updating our public participation plan, and that's in the works right now. Unfortunately, it won't be done quite for this report, but we did mention that it is in the process of being updated, and we do hope to incorporate more of our new type of meetings where we do, virtual meetings and hybrid meetings, and how we can get the public's input and involvement in those types of meetings, because before that was not as readily available and common. So we want to make sure we're going to be incorporating that type of information as well. So it's just a requirement that we have for our Title VI reporting, and we do it every year. And I think does anyone have any questions on that? Kind of goes hand in hand.
Sorry, Jerry. I just want to throw into that these are assurances that that we are attempting to meet all the Title VI requirements. When we receive federal funds through Mass Highway and from Federal Highway Administration and Federal Transit Authority, they ask that the recipients of these funds, federal funds, sign assurances that they will seek to follow all of these requirements as best as possible. And we did have a signed one from Mass DOT under the signature of Secretary Jamie Tesler, but it was dated back in 2021. So we thought we'd seek to update that with a new date this go around. That's why it's part of it. This document today. And as Sherry also mentioned, our executive director, Glenn Eaton, is the coordinator for the Planning Commission. So we've just are updating that information too with his new signature. So this is a document that requires a signature of the state and our title coordinator because we are a subrecipient, and all recipients of funding and their subrecipients are required to do these assurances and sign off on these. So that is why we're bringing it forward at this time. So we'd like to have a motion to sign the assurance on behalf of the state, and then as a subrecipient, we'll have just ratified Glenn Eaton's signature for the subrecipient, us, the Planning Commission.
Great. Thank you, Brad and Sherry. So with that, I'll ask for that motion to, I guess, endorse these assurances and then kind of give the MPOs sign off on meeting all of the Title VI requirements and producing that Title VI plan that Brad and Sherry referenced. So is there a motion then to approve this Title VI process?
Yes, I make a motion to accept it.
Mr. George, is there a second?
Ann Sullivan, I'll second.
Great, thank you. Any comments or questions? All right, seeing none, go ahead and call the roll, Brad.
Okay. MassDOT CEO Derek Cravath.
Yes.
MassDOT Highway Ann Sullivan.
Yes.
City of Fitchburg Liz Murphy.
Yes.
City of Gardner Trevor Beauregard.
Yes.
City of Leominster Mark Palmerini.
Yes.
Mart George Cahaley.
Yes.
Subregion 2 Rosemary Meisner.
Yes.
And Subregion 3 Tim Kilhart.
Yes.
Okay, so that passed unanimously.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the Montachusett Regional Transportation Plan. I believe Brian and Sherry will be taking this one.
Yep, I can start off on that. So I just have a few very short updates, and we have this as a standing item on the MPO agenda just to give a quick overview of progress on the plan. Last time in December, I reviewed some goals, objectives, strategies, and performance measures with the MPO. This is something that we're going over in more detail with the JTC over the last few months. And there are two handouts on proposed changes that we made to these items. We have going off the current 2020 RTP on the left-hand column and proposed changes to the 2024 RTP on the right-hand column. And although there are a number of changes that we're suggesting, they are relatively minor in nature. And as I mentioned, we went over in detail with the JTC and we solicited some of their feedback. And we've gotten some feedback since last week's meeting, which we plan on incorporating to the final document. And I won't go over these in detail with the MPO. However, we're just providing them for your information. If you wish to go over these and provide your own feedback, please reach out to us. Or if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at any time. So that's just an update on that. We'll incorporate all these performance measures and goals, objectives, and strategies into the 2024 RTP and move forward from there. In other RTP related news, we still have our survey out. That's still available online. SurveyMonkey link is on our website. We've been promoting that at our meetings. We also have our paper survey boxes at all the senior centers and libraries in the region. So we plan on closing that survey out in a month or so, and hopefully we can have some discussions on some of the results with the MPO in either February or March. Other than that, staff has been working on some of the chapters that are going into the plan. From there, we'll incorporate some of the survey information and some of our recommendations and our strategies that we're formulating over the next few months. Again, this is information that we're going over in detail with the JTC, and we'll make periodic updates to the MPO as well. So we're still on track to have a draft RTP document out for review, pending MPO approval at the May meeting and hopefully endorsement in June.
That's good. Thanks, Brian.
And it looks like Sherry put a link to the survey in the chat as well.
Perfect. Yep, thank you, Sherry. And yep, see the email address as well. And yep, thanks for that note, Brad. Did you want to build on that, Brad, at all?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yep.
I sent that. I had a private chat and question, and I just inadvertently sent it to
Okay.
everybody. But they were asking about makeup of um, representations on the boards and MassDOT and Commission MPO, and basically, all the members are appointed to the MRPC Commission and into the MPO by the communities, so we have no say in who they appoint. But we also have certain organizations on our board, and again, they're left to appoint who they choose. But board membership for the MPO and for the commission and for the Montachusett Joint Transportation Committee can be open to any organization that so wishes and desires. They just need to ask us if they can become a member. But so I don't have any direct information on ethnic makeup of the board members at this time.
Okay. Thanks, Brad. Any other questions on the regional transportation plan? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Brian, Sherry, and Brad. Next item is just updates, first from the MassDOT Highway Division. So we could start with District 3, maybe. Ann, did you want to, or Sarah, give an update?
I've got it.
Great, sounds good.
Okay. This is looking at 2023. The Westminster Route 140 project, 607432. That project is at PSNE. It has an August add date. Gardner roundabout construction at Elm Street, Pearl Street, Central Street, and Green Street. That's project number 609279. That is at PSNE, and that has an April add date. Under bridges in Harvard, Route 2 over the Nashua River, Tank Road, Boston and Maine Railroad. That's an in-house book job. That's number 612620. The 100% for that project is due in March, and that has a May add date. Fitchburg Route 2, 610731. That is at PSNE and has a February add date, February 4th. Ashby Route 31 at Turnpike Road. That project was advertised actually in FY22. NTP has been issued to ET&L. That was done in October, so they may actually be starting to do something out there. That was project number 609314. And then Gardner, Elm Street, Safe Routes to School project. That project is at 100%. The PSNE is due at the end of May, and it has a September add date.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ann. Any questions for Ann? All right, seeing none. Can move to District 2. I see Daryl's on. Daryl, did you want to give a District 2 update?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. So for District 2, we've got in FY23, we've got project 608784. That's Templeton Roundabout construction at the intersection of Patriots Road, South Main, North Main, and Gardner Road. Roadway design is at PSNE. The PSNE was submitted on December 9th, and review was completed on the 19th of December. Current add date is February 11th, 2023. Next project is project 609107. This is a Phillipston Templeton pavement preservation and related work on Route 2. This project was advertised November 5th, and bid openings were on December 13th. It was awarded on January 3rd with a low bid of $9.8 million by PJ Keating Company. Next project is in FY24, project 608723. This is Athol intersection improvements at Crescent Street and Chestnut Hill Ave. The design is at 75%. 100% is due at the end of this week, January 20th. And the current add date is January 6th, 2024. And that's all I have for now.
Great. Thanks, Daryl. Any questions on that? All right, seeing none. The next item is transit updates. George, did you have an update for Mark?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. For fiscal year 23, MART has been awarded $180,000 for bus shelters through the Mass DOT Shared Street and Safe Spaces program. MART will be installing bus shelters in Gardner, Fitchburg, and Atoll. We advertised a request for proposal last month, and this month we just received 4 bids for these shelters, and we'll be making decisions soon to purchase at least 12 shelters to be installed in these communities. This is what I have for now.
Thanks, George.
Thank you.
Questions for George? All right, seeing none. Next is the Montachusett Joint Transportation Commission. Brad?
Thank you. The MJTC met last week on January 11th. As we talked about, discussions focused on the set of the TIP, the UPWP, and the RTP. The JTC is going to resume its regular monthly scheduled meeting every month as these document developments continue. The next MJTC meeting is set for Wednesday, February 9th at 2:30 p.m. There was a virtual public workshop for the Northern Tier Passenger Rail Study held last week on January 11th. The study team presented information on the first 2 service plan alternatives, which they called a low investment and a high investment option. The full presentation is will be available online at Mass.Northern Tier website, the study website. It is not published as of yet, but we will also have a link on our website to get you to that video of the presentation and what they were talking about right now. Basically, they had a couple of low-cost investment alternative, which was in the $1.3 billion range, and a high investment proposal, which was in a $2 billion range, and some numbers backing those up as to regarding service and how long it would take to travel and so forth. But once it is posted, we'll make sure it's on you'll be able to access it through our website. And then just a couple of handouts of interest. The first is from the Mass Trails Grant Program, as announced that the 2023 grant round is now open. Now through February 1st, 2023, applications can be submitted to receive funds for project development, design, engineering, permitting, construction, and maintenance of recreational trails, shared use pathways, and amenities that support trails. So if anyone's interested, they can seek that and check out the Mass Trails website. And then finally, there's a copy of a press release that was put out by Mass DOT announcing $6.65 million in Complete Streets funding awards for FY 2023 round 2. The state has awarded 15 communities funds for local multimodal infrastructure projects that improve travel for bicyclists, pedestrians, public transit users, and people using other forms of transportation. This is the 14th overall grant round for this program. In our region, the town of Shirley was awarded $500,000 to construct a permanent shared use path on Front Street between Hospital Road and the Harvard Town Line. The project will include curb ramps, bicycle and pedestrians, warning signs, crosswalk improvements, solar-powered speed feedback signage, and bicycle racks at the town hall and the town library complex. That's all I have for an update on the MJTC side.
Great. Thanks, Brad. Any questions? Seeing none. The last update is from the Montachusett Regional Planning Commission.
I have that one.
Okay, go ahead, Brad. Yep.
Okay. On January 12th, the MRPC was awarded a contract from the Commonwealth to provide grant writing assistance and planning services to our regional communities. The District Local Technical Assistance Augmentation Fund, or DLTA-A, terminates on June 30th, 2024. MRPC urges communities to request proposal writing assistance, especially for the Commonwealth's One-Stop Grants Program. State organizations and their respective programs available under the One Stop program can be found include Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development, Mass Works Infrastructure Program, and Urban Agenda Grant Program. From Department of Housing and Community Development, Housing Choice Grant Program, the Massachusetts Downtown Initiative, the Community Planning Grant Program, Rural and Small Town Development Fund. And from Mass Development is Brownfields Redevelopment, Site Readiness Program, Underutilized Properties Program, Collaborative Workspace Program, Real Estate Services Technical Assistance, and Commonwealth Places Programs. For more information on any of these, please contact Karen Chapman, the Planning and Development Director at the MRPC. She can be reached at kchapman@mrpc.org, or you can contact Glenn Eaton, our Executive Director, at geaton@mrpc.org. That's what I have for the MRPC update.
Sounds good. Thanks, Brad. Next item is administrative matters. Next MPO meeting.
Wednesday, February 16th.
Perfect. Sounds good. Any other business that folks have before we ask for adjournment? All right. Seeing none, I think with that, I'll ask for a motion and second to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Great. Is there a second?
Second, Ann.
All right. I think without objection, we are adjourned. So thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of the day, and we will see you back here in February.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Aye.